Welcome to Bakes and Blenders. I'm Colleen. Today you're going to learn my 3 favorite methods for making a basic pie crust. We're using my great-grandmother's recipe today. It's a super simple recipe and it's a super simple skill that you are going to want to have. Stay tuned to the end of the video and I'm going to show you how to do a simple lattice top on a cherry pie. So if you're ready, let's get started. The first method we're going to be covering is using just the food processor to make your pie crust. This method is super easy. So first you're just going to pulse your dry ingredients in the food processor to get it combined. Then you can take out your cold shortening. I like to keep it in the freezer while I'm getting everything prepared. Dot that around. You don't want it to be in one clump. You want it to be mixed in evenly. Pulse that up a few times. And then we can add our water a little bit at a time and pulse in between additions. The great thing about this method, it is the quickest method. It's super easy. You just need a food processor. However, the con for this method is things happen very quickly in a food processor and it is easy to overmix. So just be gentle with it and take things slow, but it'll still be quick. Basically, once you add that water, you want to pulse just until your dough starts to come together. Do not wait for it to form one large ball because then you've gone too far. Once your pie dough is ready, you're going to dump it out onto some cling wrap, and you can just use the cling wrap, kind of shape it into a disc, wrap it up, and chuck it in the fridge. You'll find the recipes used in this video in the description box below. Next up, we're going to be doing the hybrid method. So we're going to get things started in our food processor. We're going to combine our dry ingredients, we're going to pulse in our shortening, but then we are going to transfer to a bowl to combine our water. Now, I like this method because you kind of get the best of both worlds. It's easy on your hands, on your wrists when you're incorporating the fat, but you don't run as big of a risk with overmixing. However, the con with this method is that it does use the most dishes, which can kind of be a pain. I always suggest adding the water a little bit at a time because you do not want your dough to become too wet. If it does become a super sloppy, soggy mess, you can add more flour, but it's best to just add the water a few tablespoons at a time. You can find links to the products that I've used in the description box below this video. Now, our third and final method is making pie dough 100% by hand. This is the OG method. This is, the traditional way to make pie crust. So you're going to just need a big bowl. I am making a double batch of pie dough right here. I'm going to be using the other half of the dough to make a lattice top for my cherry pie, so stay tuned. We are almost there. We're going to use a pastry blender to mix our shortening into our dry ingredients. You want to get those down so you have a nice sandy texture around the size of peas. You can have a few larger bits, that's totally fine. Once the fat's combined, that's when we bring in our water. Now, my favorite way to mix the water in is actually to use a dough whisk. I just recently discovered this. It's designed for stiff doughs like making bread, so it's perfect for pie crust. You don't have to get your hands dirty, but you can do this with your hand, you can do this with a wooden spoon, you do whatever you've got on hand. Now, since this is a double batch, I need to split my dough in two. One is going to make my, bottom crust for my cherry pie. The other is going to be the lattice top. So I don't need them to be perfectly equal. So I'm going to have one slightly larger bit of pie dough and then one slightly smaller bit of pie dough. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more of my videos. The most important thing to remember when you're rolling out your pie dough is to keep it moving because you do not want to get your pie dough stuck to your rolling mat because it's going to be a mess when you try to put it into your pie plate. So what I like to do is, of course, sprinkle the surface down with flour, sprinkle your pie dough down with flour. Every few rolls with that rolling pin, I want you to turn that pie dough a quarter turn, okay? Now, every few quarter turns, I want you to stop, use a bench scraper, go around your pie dough, make sure it's completely loose. Then I want you to flip it over, flour underneath your mat, and now flour what was once the bottom of your pie dough. And you just keep this process up, quarter turns. Every few quarter turns, you give it a flip. This is going to prevent your pie crust from sticking, and it's going to be a huge help. Number one tip to you. Once you have your pie dough rolled out to the right size, for me that's usually around 12 inches, but you also want to make sure that you have the right thickness. If it's too thick, that's not going to bake properly, and then you're just going to have way too much crust, which is not cool, okay? This crust is good, but the star of a pie is usually not the crust, okay? So once you have it to the right size, the right thickness, this is the scary part. I'm sorry. There are several ways you can get your pie dough into your pie plate. One, you can drape it over your rolling pin. Two, you can just lift it up and carefully place it in. Some people can even fold it into quarters and then put it in that way. Figure out what works for you. Once you get it on top of that pie plate, let it fall in gently and then bring the sides up to gently press the sides of the pie dough into the corner of your pie plate so that you don't tear anything. This is going to be a cherry pie, so I'm leaving the edges kind of rough right now because we're going to do that lattice top in just a second. But if you are doing a pumpkin pie or a coconut cream pie and you need to have that beautiful crust, this is the point where you're going to fold the excess over if you want, crimp the edges, cut off any extra that's hanging over, and make that pie look gorgeous right around the edge of the crust. Lattice tops look a bit extra, but they're actually not that terrible to make, okay? So let's get started. Take that smaller portion of your dough out and you're going to roll this out basically the same way we just rolled out the bottom pie crust. It doesn't have to be quite as large because this pie crust doesn't have to go down the sides and across the bottom. You just got to make sure that at the widest, your pie crust that you're rolling out now can go across the top of your pie. So I like to do about 10 inches, but I mean measure your pie plate, make sure that you've got enough. Roll it out and then you cut it into strips. I'm actually using a fondant roller because I like that it will give me even spaces and there's fun attachments to give you that, zigzag pattern. But you can use a pizza cutter, you can use a knife, you can go crazy and have different size strips. There's no rules here, guys. To get that lattice look, you're going to start by laying down some strips of pie dough across your pie. Make sure you leave gaps in between because we're going to be weaving some pie crust through there. Now fold every other piece of pie dough back about halfway, and you're going to put another piece of pie dough going the opposite way. Fold those folded back pieces back over the pie strips, and then you're going to repeat the process with the other strips of pie dough that you did not pull back. You're going to repeat this on one side of the pie until that's completely done. Then you can do the same thing on the other half of your pie, and before you know it, you have a lattice top on your gorgeous cherry pie. To be honest, this is only the second time I've ever done a lattice top, and if I'm allowed to toot my own horn, it doesn't look half bad. The more often you do these, you can figure out what type of spacing you want between your strips. You can keep it really tight, you can keep it loose, you can play around with different sizes of strips. It's totally up to you. No matter what, your pie is going to be delicious. Now that your lattice is all done, you need to tighten it up, make it look good. Okay, so go around your pie, press the edges of those pie strips into the rest of the pie dough, and then pinch off any excess pie dough that's hanging over the edge.
All you have left to do now is add a little egg wash to get that gorgeous shine, and then a little sprinkle of sugar. Pop that pie in the oven and bake it.
So there you have it, 3 basic methods for making a simple pie crust. It's an important skill to have that you are going to use throughout the entire year, during the winter when you're making a delicious pumpkin pie, or in the summer when you're getting those ripe cherries and turning those into a delicious cherry pie. I hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that bell if you want to see more of my videos. I'll see you in the next one. But for now, I'm taking some pie. I'm gonna go eat.